All right, everybody. Hey, I just want to shoot a quick video. I get asked a lot from buyers that are looking to buy their next fix and flip or rental property, how I go about working with my clients. And so I wanted to shoot a quick video that just kind of describes how I work with my clients and how wholesaling in general works. So just to kind of jump into wholesaling, wholesaling is when you work with a wholesaler goes out and they basically bird dog properties for investors that don't have the time, to go out and door knock and run the mailing campaigns and farm the MLS and all the things that we do to find these properties that make good, profitable fix and flips. And so, what a wholesaler does, they typically go out and they find a property, they put it under contract, and then they, in essence, really just reselling that property to another investor before it even closes. So that's typically done through assignment. So I would say 9 times out of 10, I just simply assign my contracts. Now, once in a while, I run across a seller or more often a real estate agent that has an issue with doing the assignment. It's pretty rare anymore. Most agents understand how assignment works, and sellers typically don't care either because they don't care who's buying the property as long as somebody's closing. So I'm running across the assignment problem less and less these days. Um, but it does happen occasionally that I'll run across a seller that will not assign the contract, or the agent that's advising their client not to assign the contract. And in that situation, we would switch to plan B, which is that we just simply double close it. So, um, and I'm going to explain a little bit about that in my process. So here is a real simple 2-page contract that I use with my investors. And so I just want to point out a couple things that I often get asked, and I just want to point them out in this video. So upon, the investor looking at the property and they determine they want the property, they need to understand that they're taking the property as is, and as soon as they sign this contract and deposit earnest money with me, that their earnest money is hard. So they need to do their inspections up front. So they need to just make sure they do everything they need to do before they are ready to say, yeah, I want this property. It works a little differently than a regular transaction. If you're working with a real estate agent, they'll go put a contract in. They'll have, um, you know, 3, 4, 5 days of inspection period for that investor to go through that property and um, determine if they want to move forward or if they want to reduce purchase price. You don't get that. Um, you don't get that type of terms with a wholesaler, not typically, because wholesalers have already negotiated a price down as far as they can to really, get that buyer to sign off on this lower purchase price. So that's why that earnest money is hard. And so I just wanted to kind of go through that real fast to make sure that everybody understands that that's the case. And most investors that have done investing for a while, they get how wholesalers work and they understand that's the process. So, but as you see in my contract, you right here, your earnest money is non-refundable. And so um, that's the first piece. And then down here, I go into the different types of closings that we can do. So like I said, 9 times out of 10, I just simply assign the contract that I have with the seller. I just assign it to the investor. So we just change names of the buyer. So if I have it under Dream Home LLC, I'll just assign it to whatever entity that they're going to operate under, and then they go to closing and sign off as the buyer. I step back and just really work the transaction as a real estate agent. That moves into the second point. So I have a lot of investors that work with me that have a real estate agent, and that's completely fine. And but they need to understand, the investors and the real estate agent need to understand that there's no co-op commission on these real estate transactions. So if the investor wants to pay their real estate agent something, they need to add that to the purchase price. So that's the second piece that I run across quite a bit on this, and so I wanted to just kind of spell that out real fast. So, with that said, I do believe I'm one of the easier wholesalers to work with here in town. Like I said, in my other videos, I personally analyze each deal as if it's my own fix and flip, and weigh the comps and share those comps with my investors in my build out sheets. So, and then I also do a property analysis of profit margins that I believe that the property could potentially make. And with that said, don't take my word as gold. You need to do your own research, pull your own comps, and certainly run your own rehab numbers, because everybody's rehab numbers are different. I typically get a little cheaper labor than a lot of other investors that I see out there. But then there's some other investors that get cheaper labor than me because they have these teams they pay by the hour, and so they look at it differently than I do. So I just kind of throw out numbers based on how I analyze it, but you certainly need to pull your own comps, do your own work up front, and make sure that the numbers are going to make sense. So, um, but anyways, just kind of going through this contract real fast. It's a very simple two-page contract, and it really kind of, once it's assigned and once we assign the contract over to your investor, then um, this contract really takes a back seat. We still use it at closing, because whatever the difference is between the assigned contract, let's say I assigned a contract, the investor has it as for 400,000, but I sold it to an investor for, let's say, 402,000, which is typically what I do. I mark it up a couple $1,000, maybe 2,500 bucks. That difference between this contract and the other contract would be treated as an assignment fee. And so that's one way I get paid on it. And then the other way I get paid is I collect typically I'm collecting the buyer's commission on the first side. So I really take an agent role in that. So that's how I get paid. I want to be super transparent about that, so there's no question. And in the event of assignment, the investor sees all that. They see this one, and they see the purchase price up here, and then they get the assigned contract. I provide that all to them with all the disclosures, everything, once we do the assignment. So, like I said, if for some reason we can't assign the property, then we go do a double close, which my title company can do those. And it's usually not a big deal. It's usually like $300 more. Um, that leads into one more thing I'd like to go over. All my contracts that I put out, one of the reasons I'm able to get such reductions in my price is that I offer to the buyers that will pay all closing costs in exchange that I can use my title company. So when you're running your numbers, you want to make sure you add in about, $700-800 more, because you are covering the seller's closing costs in that transaction. So um, but that's basically it. Pretty simple. Lastly, I do first come, first serve. I don't do a bidding process. So I know there's some other wholesalers in town. I go to look at some of their houses, and they have 15, 20 people all crammed in, within an hour. And then they collect bids from everybody. And then they pick the highest bid within a couple hours. I see these guys do this. I don't do it that way. I just do first come, first serve. So if an investor is willing to, move quickly, do their inspections quickly, and get everything done and get me an offer of what I'm asking, um, I sign the contract with them. As soon as they give me earnest money, it's theirs. And so most investors I work with really like that first come, first serve. And that's how I pretty much run all of my properties whenever I get them. Just because for me, I've been in the shoes of investors when I'm buying wholesale deals from other wholesalers, and you put all this work up front, and then you're in a bidding process with 10 other investors, and you did all this work and spent the money to do the inspections, and you're not even getting the property. But when you work with me, if you move quickly and you're able to get everything done and get me a contract and earnest money up front, I just do the first come, first serve basis, and most investors really appreciate that. So that is a quick rundown. I will post my contract on my website as well, so you have a copy of it. So if you're interested in working with me, this is the contract we sign. I collect earnest money. We'll talk more about it when we do a deal. But then once I have earnest money contract, in a couple days, I usually go back to the seller and I work towards the assignment with an amend, and then I provide all those documents to you. And sometimes when I have an investor sign this, they want to see the contract up front. that's completely fine. I typically don't have a problem with that. You can review the contract as soon as we sign this and earnest money. I can send the contract over to the investors so they can review it and just make sure that they are good with everything. But it's really pretty cut and dry, like I've already spelled out in this video. So, anyways, hopefully that is helpful for a lot of you. But just to recap, earnest money is hard. Make sure your investor or the investor is watching this video. Do your inspections up front. Run your own comps. Make sure you run your own rehab numbers, and really do your own due diligence. If you have an agent that's working with you, you need to put their commission on top. With that said, a lot of agents don't take any commission up front. Usually, they just try to capture the listing on the back end from their investor. That's a great way to go about it too. I don't work towards getting listings from investors. That's not my area of expertise. I strictly hunt for properties. I strictly bird dog. That's all I do all day long, and I'm not really interested in taking listings. So no agents need to worry about that with me. So, um, but that's pretty much it. I'll post this contract online. It's pretty simple. It's nothing fancy. It's a very simple two-page contract. And if you have any questions that I didn't answer here, certainly you're welcome to give me a call. Thank you.